Imagine this for a moment. You're standing at the checkout counter buying a simple bottle of water. The cashier smiles and says, "That'll be $1.09 of a cent." You pause. You hand over $2 and wait for your change. What happens next? Do they slice a tiny piece off a coin? Hand you a microscopic fraction of a penny? Of course not. In any normal store, that situation would feel absurd, almost like a joke. And yet at the gas station, we accept this exact scenario without a second thought. We glance at the sign, $3.49. Our brain instantly translates it as gas costs $3.49. But the truth is a little different. In reality, it's essentially $3.50. It feels like a tiny difference, less than a penny. But when you zoom out and look at it across millions of drivers and billions of gallons of fuel, that tiny difference quietly grows into something enormous. To understand how this strange pricing trick became normal, we have to travel back almost a century to 1932 in the depths of the Great Depression. America was struggling, businesses were collapsing, unemployment was soaring, and the government desperately needed revenue. That's when Congress introduced the very first federal gasoline tax, 1 cent per gallon. Today, that sounds insignificant, but at the time, gasoline cost around 10 cents per gallon. That single cent meant a sudden 10% price increase, a frightening jump for both drivers and gas stations already fighting to survive. Station owners needed a way to soften the blow, so they came up with a clever trick. Instead of raising prices by a full penny, they split it. Rather than charging 11 cents, they priced gasoline at 10 and 9/10 cents. The increase was technically there, but psychologically it felt smaller. Back then, some regions even had fractional currency that could represent those tiny amounts, but over time, those coins disappeared. The fractions remained only on the signs. What started as a temporary workaround slowly became tradition, and once customers got used to it, the system never disappeared. But history alone doesn't explain why the trick still works today. For that, we need psychology. Researchers call it the left digit effect. Our brains process numbers from left to right, and the very first digit heavily influences how we judge a price. To a mathematician, the difference between 3.99 and 4.00 is a single cent. To your brain, however, those numbers live in completely different categories. 3.99 feels like 3-something. 4.00 feels like $4. That tiny change flips a mental switch. By adding 9/10 of a cent, gas stations get almost the full value of the next cent, while your brain happily continues believing the price is still lower. It's a psychological illusion hiding in plain sight. Like stepping on a scale that always shows you 2 pounds lighter. Comforting, yes. Accurate? Not quite. And then there's the third reason, perhaps the most powerful of all. Let's call it the magic of big numbers. The average American driver buys roughly 500 gallons of gasoline each year. That little 9/10 of a cent adds about $4.50 per driver annually. $4.50 doesn't sound like much. Most people wouldn't even bend down to pick that up off the sidewalk. But now, multiply it by 150 million drivers. Suddenly, that tiny fraction transforms into $675 million every year. Not from better fuel, not from better service, just from a psychological quirk in how humans perceive numbers. So if the trick is so obvious, why is it still legal? In business, there's a concept called customary pricing. Once a pricing style becomes standard across an industry, it's extremely difficult for any single company to abandon it. In fact, there's a story that perfectly illustrates this. In the 1980s, a gas station chain in Iowa tried something radical: honesty. They removed the fractional pricing and simply rounded their prices to the nearest cent. Mathematically, nothing really changed. Psychologically, everything did. Drivers saw the numbers on the sign and thought the station was more expensive than its competitors, even though the difference was less than a penny. Customers kept driving past, sales collapsed, and eventually the company went bankrupt. The market itself punished honesty. So the next time you pull up to a gas pump, take a moment to look closely at that tiny 9 sitting at the edge of the price. Don't think of it just as part of the number. Think of it as a small monument to human psychology. A reminder that even in a world filled with advanced technology, complex algorithms, and precise data, we're still guided by the same mental shortcuts people had nearly a century ago. Sometimes the biggest tricks in the world aren't hidden in complicated systems. Sometimes they're hiding in the smallest numbers.